What is up, guys? My name is Lex. Welcome back to the vlog. It's a beautiful day here in Dallas, Texas, taking Rogue to the dog park, letting him run around and have some fun. But you guys probably came here for the poker, so let's get down to the table. Let's get to the action. Let's go. The first hand we end up playing here on a Saturday night at Texas Card House is Ace King. There's an open at $35. Pretty big raise here, but I'm going to be putting in a 3-bet. I make it $125 for a couple reasons. One, I have a very strong hand. Two, I don't want a bunch of people to call behind me and play the hand out of position. And three, this guy seems like an action player. I want to build the pot up with a good hand. Under the gun +1 makes the call. We see a board of ace, 6, deuce, 2 clubs, making top pair, top kicker. I bet super tiny on this board, only $50, and my opponent calls. The turn is the 7 of clubs, now bringing in a potential flush. I'm actually not too concerned about this card. It's very difficult to make a flush in poker. I'm going to keep betting here. I think there's a ton of hands I can get value from. I can get value from ace jack, ace queen, ace 10, all with a club. Maybe his pocket pairs like 9s, 10s, jacks with a club in it. So I make it $175. He very quickly calls. So we're heads up now to the river, which is the 3 of hearts. Against some very tight players, I may be tempted to check back this river card, given the fact that it would be hard for them to call me with a worse hand, but against this player, I feel like he's not going to be folding a pair or even an under pair to the board, so I put out a small bet about 1/3 size of the pot, $225. We get snap called. I show the ace king, and he shows me ace deuce of spades for 2 pair. Throughout this video, I end up playing a ton of pots with this guy, so I'm going to nickname him for the vlog the Texas Tommy Boy. He brought a ton of action to the table. He was super fun to play with, and he also ran like God. Next hand, the Texas Tommy Boy straddles to $20 under the gun. I have ace queen in middle position, raise it here to $60. Small blind calls, and the straddler Texas Tommy makes the call as well. So we're 3 ways of the flop of 8, 8, 3, 2 spades. On this board, I have 2 overcards, backdoor nut flush draw, and I don't think my opponents are going to be smashing this board very often, so I put out a bet. $125. Only the under the gun player, Texas Tommy, makes the call. The turn is the queen of spades, giving me top pair, top kicker, and the nut flush draw. He checks over to me, and this is kind of an interesting spot of whether I want to bet or check. It's kind of hard to get value from worse hands now, and he could possibly be slow playing an 8 or maybe even a flush. I end up checking for deception to allow him to bluff rivers and for pot control in case I'm beat. The last card is a queen. We make a full house. We go runner, runner, full house here, and now Texas Tommy leads out for $175. A couple things are going through my head right now. One, it's nice to run good and go runner, runner, full house, and two, I'm pretty sure Tommy's bluffing here. I don't think he'd play many hands like this. If he had a flush, I think he would check on a double paired board. If he had an 8, I don't think he'd be betting this big, and I don't think he has a queen because I have a queen and there's 2 on the board. With all that being said, we have a full house, so we're going to be putting in a raise. I make it $650, $500 more for him to call. I'm hoping if he has an 8, he'll call this bet, and if he has a flush, he might not be able to fold that hand. He actually goes into the tank for a while, about 90 seconds of thinking, but unfortunately, he decides to let this one go, and we end up taking down our first pot of the night. Another hand coming up here with our boy Texas Tommy. He makes it $50. The button calls. We have pocket aces in the small blind. I'm going to be putting in a 3-bet here. I've noticed that Tommy is raising according to the strength of his hand. Sometimes he'll raise smaller with weaker hands and bigger with stronger hands, so I bump it up big. $275. Tommy started the hand with about $2,000 and the button has about $1,000. They both end up making the call, so we're going 3 ways to a massive pot here with pocket aces. The flop is king, queen, 3, 2 spades. This should be a board that would be smashing my 3-betting range out of the small blind. However, I do still only have 1 pair. I'm out of position, so I decided to go with an unorthodox line and check. My reasonings behind this is sometimes I like to check out of position with strong hands so that people don't think I'm always weak when I check. It can also allow my opponents to bluff with worse hands like straight draws and flush draws, or bet weaker pairs like a king jack, king 10, queen jack, or ace queen. Tommy decides to check, and now the button, with about $700 left in his stack, puts out a bet of $300. After glancing over at the button, seeing he only has $400 left in his stack, I think it's a pretty standard check raise here. Trying to get it all in with him. I don't think he's ever going to be folding any pair, straight draw, or flush draw, so I think for a little bit of time and raise it up here to $600. Now Texas Tommy Boy goes into the tank for a while, starts thinking with about $1,700 left in his stack. I would assume he'd be betting all of his strong hands when checked to on the flop, so I'm pretty sure he's got like a gut shot here, like ace jack, ace 10, maybe 9-10, maybe a queen. Eventually he decides to fold. The action's over on the button, and he decides to fold as well. Wasn't unexpected that. I was almost 100% sure the button would go all in, but he decides to fold with only $400 left, so it looks like our check on the flop induced him to bluff with a hand that basically had zero equity. If you guys are not already, go follow my Instagram, LexOPoker. I make daily posts about where I'm playing and how I do on that session. The game has been bumped. We are now playing with a straddle. The blinds are 2, 5, 10. I'm in the big blind with pocket aces. There's an early position raised to $40 by a very conservative woman, not getting out of line very often. I would say that she's one of the tighter players at the table. She makes it $40. Tommy Boy calls in the cutoff. I bump it up here to $225. The woman in Under the Gun +1 is a very solid player. She seems to know what she's doing, so she thinks for a while and decides to call $225 with about $2,500 in her stack, and immediately I put her on some mid-range pocket pairs like pocket sevens through pocket jacks. Action over on Texas Tommy Boy, whose play style is complete polar opposite of the woman in Under the Gun +1. So when he makes the call for $225, he can basically have any two cards here. So we're going three ways at the flop, out of position in a 3-bet pot with pocket aces. The board is 10, 9, 7 rainbow. When I see this board multi-way, I actually hate it. It's full of middling cards that are connected, which means it can smash my opponent's ranges with sets, two pairs, and straight. So I decide to check. I actually think I should be checking my entire range on this board, out of position in a 3-bet pot multi-way. The action's now over on the very conservative player Under the Gun +1. She had been playing pretty tight the whole session, and she fires out a big bet for this game, $450. Now Texas Tommy makes a snap call with one pink chip, and the action's back on us. Given the action pre-flop, I'm pretty sure Under the Gun +1 has a hand like pocket sevens through pocket jacks, which is why this board is so bad. She can have pocket nines, 10s, and 7s here, and I have to worry about Tommy Boy, who can have basically any two cards. He can have all the two pairs, straights, and sets on this board. If you guys remember back in the first hand, he just check called all the way down with two pair on the flop with ace deuce. After about 30 seconds, I decide to fold my pocket aces on the flop. Possibly the tightest fold, the nittiest fold of my entire life. Before you guys go crazy and roast me in the chat, I want to try to explain my thought process a little bit more. I have a one pair hand that won't be able to improve on a very dynamic, coordinated board against two players out of position. Another thing to consider here is that if I am ahead on the flop, there's going to be so many bad cards on the turn in the river. Basically, any 7, 8, 9, 10, jack, queen, or king can improve my opponents to a straight two pair or even a set. The last thing going through my head here is that I had a bad gut feeling about the hand. I had a feeling I was either already behind or that I would get outdrawn on the turn or the river. So I make a super tight fold with pocket aces. Maybe one of the worst folds of my life, but don't you guys worry. We have live action of the turn and the river, and it gets pretty crazy. The fourth card is the King of Hearts, and now Under the Gun +1 checks over to Texas Tommy, who thinks for a while and puts out a massive bet of $950. Tommy was playing a ton of hands, but I haven't seen him bluff very often, especially for this sizing, so when he bets $950 here, I'm almost positive he has a straight. With the action back on Under the Gun +1, she decides to rip her entire stack in there. She goes all in, and Texas Tommy makes the call. They're playing over a $6,000 pot here. This is wild. They decide to run out the board one time. Queen Jack. Texas Tommy Boy has Queen Jack for a straight to take down a massive pot. This is what I was afraid of on the flop. Any 7 through king can improve my opponent's hand, so it makes me feel a little bit better that even though I incorrectly folded on the flop, we would have ended up losing the hand anyway. Sometimes you just know. Texas Tommy has a massive stack, so I head to the cage and add on another $2,000. I have about $6,000 now on the table. We continue playing big pocket pairs, however this time we are downgraded to pocket kings. However, I am not complaining. I make it $40 under the gun, get 5 callers, so we're 6 ways to the flop. Welcome to crazy Texas poker. The board comes out ace high, not what we're looking to see. Checks to me, I check, and the action checks all the way around. The turn is the 5 of clubs, doesn't help us. Texas Tommy leads out for $80, folds to me, and I just let this one go. Now after I fold, the same player from last hand, the woman who just doubled up Texas Tommy, goes all in for her last $400. Tommy makes the call with 2 pair, ace 9 with the ace of clubs, and she shows pocket 5s for a set. She ends up getting the double up here. Moving on, Texas Tommy makes it $25. There's a call. I have 9-10 of diamonds in the cutoff. I decide to 3-bet here to $125. I'm trying to go heads up with Texas Tommy, who's got a massive stack of over $7,000. I'm hoping we can play some big pots with this guy. We get exactly what we want when Texas Tommy makes the call. The hijack player makes the call as well, so we're going 3 ways in position in a 3-bet pot. The board is 10, 3, 5, 1 diamond. We flop top pair. It checks over to the hijack player, who leads right out into me for $110. When he leads here, I'm pretty sure he just has a top pair holding, maybe pocket 8s or 9s, so I don't think a raise here is good given the fact that our kicker is only a 9. So I make the call, and Texas Tommy makes the call as well. So we're 3 ways still to the turn, which is the queen of clubs, bringing an overcard to our pair. Tommy checks. Now the hijack player checks, so I think it's pretty close of either betting really small here to try to check back rivers or just checking back, and I decide to check this one back, going to the last card, which is the 6 of clubs. Backdoor flush gets there, and Texas Tommy now leads right out for $375. If the hijack player folds his hand, I may be tempted to hero call Tommy here, but the hijack player thinks for a while and puts in the call, so now we have a pretty easy fold.
I fold.
Tommy has 4 deuce of clubs for a flush. He seems to be playing looser and looser as he keeps winning and his stack keeps growing. My goal for the night now is to play as many hands in position as I can against this guy. Next up, I'm in the under the gun straddle with pocket queens. There's an early position raise to $50, a 5x raise by a player who had not been playing many hands. There's 2 callers, and I decide to just call here. For some reason, I had a bad feeling that the initial raiser had a monster. He had only raised one other time this session to $50, and that time he had pocket aces. I check it over to him on a king high board, and he continues for $75. When the other players let go of their hands, I don't think I can fold my pocket queens for this sizing just yet, so I make the call. We're heads up to the turn, which is a brick. I check over to him, and he puts out a massive bet of $400.
You can get in some really good spots if you short stack PLO and good win.
Yeah, you got me, buddy.
All right. Other than that, I don't like stuff.
You got me. Yeah, it's pretty good. You want to know what I had? I'll show you what I had. I had pocket queens. I just had a bad feeling.
The hijack player is a big fan of the vlog and actually asked me to show his face, which doesn't usually happen. He was nice enough to show me his cards that he had pocket kings, so we had a read pre-flop and it was correct. We ended up losing the minimum kings versus queens. Luckily, there was a king on the board to help us save some money. We go over an hour being super card dead and not picking up any hands while Texas Tommy runs over the table. He has a stack of almost $9,000 now. We're trying to get in there against this guy and play some big pots with him. So when he raises to $30 and I look down at 10-4 suited on the button, it looks like pocket aces to me. So I'm going to put in a 3-bet. I re-raise here to $100. He ends up making the call. We're heads up in position with a premium-ish hand versus Texas Tommy. We see a board of Jack, 6 deuce, 2 hearts, 1 spade. We completely miss, but we do have some backdoor draws like backdoor flush draws and backdoor straight draws. So when he checks to me, I'm going to continue here looking to potentially triple barrel on this board. I bet $125 and Texas Tommy boy makes the call. The turn pairs the board. It's another 6. He checks over to me, and I definitely think I should continue to bluff here. I have 10 high, no draw, but he's going to have so many floats that he calls with on the flop that I can't call a bet on the turn. So I continue here for $250. After watching his body language on the flop and the turn, I'm pretty sure he doesn't have a jack or a 6. I think he has a pair or a flush draw. So I've already made up my mind that if he calls this turn bet, I'm going to be blasting off on every river that doesn't contain a heart. Texas Tommy ends up making the call. My heart rate immediately spikes up. I'm getting nervous now. I have 10 high, no draw. I'm going to have to bluff this river card if I want to win this pot. The last card is a jack, and now double pairs the board, which is actually a really terrible card for me to bluff. The reason that this jack is a bad card is that if I continue to bet here, I'm going to be representing such a narrow range of basically only a jack, and when people represent a narrow range, the players tend to call more often. However, we've gotten here with 10 high. If I check back and he shows me queen high or king high or a small pocket pair, I'm going to be kicking myself for not even trying. I've been waiting to play a big pot with Tommy Boy all night, so I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to put in the bluff. I make it $500. Now the waiting game is on. We're sitting here with 10 high, betting $500 on the river against a crazy loose action player who seems to be playing every single pot. This seems like a suicide play. However, I'm pretty sure he just has an ace, king, or queen high hand, or maybe a smaller pocket pair. I'm hoping he will give me some respect, given the fact that I haven't gotten out of line all night, and he'll make a hero fold. He keeps thinking back and forth, talking to me, grabbing chips, and eventually he decides to make the fold. So we finally get a bluff through. My bluffs hardly ever work. People just love calling me on the river, so it is nice to finally successfully get a triple barrel bluff through. Texas Tommy is running super hot. I'm pretty sure he started the session with only $500 and now he has a massive stack, winning basically every single hand. We have King 10 of hearts now under the gun, make it $30. 2 callers before Tommy Boy makes a call on the button. We go 4 ways to the flop. Ace, Jack, 4, 2 hearts. We flop a massive draw, flush draw, and straight draw. I continue for $100 and only Texas Tommy makes the call. The turn is a 7 and I think I should continue to bet here. Putting on the pressure, trying to push my equity. I make it $300. Tommy thinks for a while, shows me an ace, and lets it go. This was a very swingy session, up and down all night. However, I'm pretty happy with the way the session went. I got some big bluffs through. I made some tough folds and some tough pre-flop decisions that ended up saving me money throughout the night. After this hand, we end up racking up our chips, heading to the cage, and cashing out for the night. Before we move to the outro, I want to give you guys a sneak peek for what's coming next week. Vlog number 87, the craziest poker session I've ever played in my entire life, and I got it all on video for you guys. I ran so hot, running the best I've ever ran in my entire life. I won over a $14,000 pot, and I profited the most I've ever made in my poker career. It's a crazy video. Get ready next Thursday.
All right, guys, that is it for this one. It is still freezing outside here, so we're doing the intro inside the car. One thing I do want to discuss, if you're trying to play poker for a living or for profit, I feel like it's very important to try to develop a strategy for each player at the table so that you can use that when you're playing against them. Every single player tries to implement a certain strategy. There's tight passive players, there's tight aggressive players, there's loose passive, loose aggressive, there's professional players who play for a living, there's recreational players who play for fun. Everybody has a different strategy, so you want to play differently according to your opponent. You don't want to just play the same exact way against every single person. I feel like tonight there was a ton of hands that I played differently against different players. So the first one, obviously the big one, pocket aces folding on the flop. I just had a bad feeling. The very tight player, I could be behind to her. I could also be behind to the loose passive player. So made the fold with pocket aces. I want to hear what you guys have to say about that one down in the comments below. And then the other hand, where a very, very tight player playing like 10% of hands made it $50 from under the gun. $50, a 5x raise. I just called with pocket queens, thinking that he most likely had a monster, and I just wanted to see the flop. Normally, I would always 3-bet that hand, but against this particular player, I just called. Turns out he had pocket kings, so pretty sick spot. However, I changed up my strategy against a very loose aggressive or loose passive player with all the chips. He was raising every single hand, so I was 3-betting him constantly. 3-betting with 10-4 of spades, 3-betting with 9-10 of diamonds. I had some value hands, some bluffs, some weak hands. I was trying to get in there with him, so I was playing differently against him because he was very loose passive. I was making very loose calls pre-flop to try to play hands with him, but against very tight players, I was playing very snug. So I feel like it's important to try to have a different strategy against different particular players. Now, I'm not claiming to be a coach. I'm not trying to coach you guys. I'm just trying to explain my thought process and why I do certain things. Sometimes it works. Sometimes I look stupid. Sometimes I win money. Sometimes I don't win money. I don't know. I'm just trying to explain what's going through my head when I'm at the poker table. But ended up getting in the game tonight for $6,000, cashing out for $6,200, $200 profit. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm trying to get to 40,000 subscribers. 40,000 subscribers. So if you're not already, hit that subscribe button. More videos of Rogue, more poker videos. It's going to be a lot of fun. You guys got to subscribe. 2 videos coming out every single week. But that is it for this one. Until next time, I'll see you.